the more telling path for the Patriots this offseason? Is it free agency, which the deadline today to use the franchise tag, or the window, I should say, not the deadline, the window to use the franchise tag opens up at 4 o'clock today. We could get some news as early as 4:01. Patriots already carving out some cap space. We talked about it yesterday. Adrian Phillips out, Lawrence Guy out. Matthew Slater is retired. We have thoughts on that. Or is the more telling avenue for the Patriots going to be the draft, which we've also talked a ton about? You guys can jump in, 617-779-7937. We'll get to the Red Sox later on in the program. Rafael Devers ripping ownership. We'll get to the Celtics and Bruins as well. A lot planned here on the show, but let's start with that, Mego. What's going to tell us more about the Patriots and their offseason? Is it free agency, which is basically here, or is it the draft?
So both are going to tell a lot. I just don't buy that you can take away so much from this free agency because you have so many clear areas of need and you've got a boatload of cash to burn, as we heard. Like maybe you can tell a little bit if we get the details of how these different contracts are structured. I don't know that we will because these will be free agent signings. They won't be trades. And sometimes you get a little bit more of that information when it's trades breaking. Like if you see that these are, again, just so inflated with incentives, then that will tell me something about, okay, how much of the way that cash spending went about was about ownership and how much of it was about how Bill and whoever else structured contracts. All that to say, I really think it's got to be the draft because whatever you do with the number 3 pick just can have such a bigger impact than anything that you do in free agency, I think, for the most part. And there are going to be some obvious things that you can tell right away. If they trade down out of that 3 spot and draft a tackle, then I'm looking at it and I'm like, Elliot Wolf has all the power in Foxborough. Like, he is truly the new sheriff in town. That's how I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that as Gerard Mayo's not getting what he wants. Ownership is truly handing over the reins to Elliot. And so I just think that there's a lot that you can take at a surface level and a deeper level with that draft pick in particular. It's the highest that they have been drafting in decades. And so I don't see how you can't take more away from that when you look at what they're going to do this offseason.
So I largely agree. And you're taking maybe a bigger picture look than even I am. But I agree it's the draft. It's about the quarterback. Get the quarterback, everything changes. You can spend on whatever you want in free agency. And I would love them to get big-ticket wide receivers, and I would love them to get weapons in the passing game. And if you want, get yourself a splashy offensive lineman after you get all that. That's fine. I would love for them to spend. I expect them to spend.
What is a splashy offensive lineman?
A big-ticket offensive lineman. And so I would love for them to do that, but that's not going to tell me anything about where they're going. You can have a full roster. If your quarterback can't play, you're screwed. If your quarterback can't play, it won't matter, which is why I still go with the draft. So I'm with Mego. But Arkan, I know you feel differently.
Yeah, I think that there's a chance here. And part of this may just be because of the order these things are in. Like, I think we'll see what they do in free agency is going to shape how they attack the draft. So, I mean, that may be part of it. But I do think that in terms of free agents, I was thinking about the guys they cut yesterday. You know, Lawrence Guy and Adrian Phillips were not big blockbuster free agent signings. They were guys who were kind of diamonds in the rough. They were Belichick specials. They brought them in here. They kind of, shut their mouth and did their job and all that. And I'm just sort of thinking, like, you have a lot of money to spend right now, and you have a very, very big and I think good free agent class of positions that you need help at. So it's not like in 2020 when the best wide receivers were Nelson Aguilar and Smith-Schuster and Kendrick Bourne. You have real playmakers here. You have real guys that you can go and get. And I just sort of wonder, are they going to do that? How far are they going to be willing to go in order to upgrade this offense and make this offense better? Or are they going to go after good deal guys, wide receiver? Are they going to go after the Kendrick Bournes of the world who are out there, or like DJ Chark is a free agent, and Josh Reynolds and the Lions, who I kind of like, but that's not who I want them going after. That's not who I want them targeting. I want them going for the big fish and the big talent, and I think if you're drafting at 3, you're going to be doing that anyway. So in some way, I think that there's more to be learned here from how they attack free agency than there is the draft.
I also think, and this is why this is such a good conversation for today, like if you're a Patriots fan, you might be looking at the franchise tag window and going, okay, so they're going to franchise tag Duggar or Onwenu. If they tag somebody, who cares? Well, when you're looking at what may happen in free agency, today you may see T. Higgins get tagged or one of these other really big name potential wide receivers that will be out there in free agency, you might see 3 different guys at that position get franchise tagged. And then all of a sudden, your hopes for what you're doing in free agency might really get narrowed down to the point where you're like, uh-oh, are we looking at a Nelson Aguilar type? Like, I think that there'll still be other guys out there, but just something to keep your eye on once that 4 o'clock window opens.
No, it's a good point because, Schefter had a list, and we talked about this briefly yesterday because we all worked yesterday. We as a show worked yesterday. Pat on the back for showing up.
Worked our asses
even Arcan showed up yesterday, which really was the upset. But, Schefter had this
list. Screw you, President.
Can I be honest? I didn't know if Arcan was working yesterday until, 8:30 a.m. when we all started communicating.
It's a fair point. Yeah, I wasn't totally sold. He was actually going to show up physically here. But, Schefter had Kyle Duggar as the one the Patriots might have, which I would hate. I would be against. We discussed that yesterday. We can circle back to it if you want. He also has T. Higgins and Michael Pittman on that list, to your point, Mego. Here's another one that could indirectly impact the Patriots. Antoine Winfield expected to get tagged in Tampa, which means Baker Mayfield may be a free agent. So there's a lot of stuff that can play out over the next couple of weeks. And we're already getting texts, 37937. Guys, couldn't it be a combination of the draft and free agents?
No.
It could. But the question is, which one is going to tell you more? They will both tell us a lot. They're both big things. We spent a lot of time talking about both. Which one's going to tell you more? You can vote at Jones and Mego. You can dial us up.
Yeah, make a choice.
617-779-7937. Which will tell us more? Free agency.
Both things can be true.
Let me get the question out. Free agency or the draft? It's pretty much 50-50. It's been very close all day long. Continue to vote there. I would say the draft. Mego says the draft. Arcan says free agency. What say you guys? Real quick, thumbs up, thumbs down on this. I was reading Matt Bowen at ESPN. He went through the top 50 free agents, best landing spot for all of them. And so it's just an exercise, a scenario. Would you be okay if the Patriots brought in 2 of the top 50 free agents and he had them signing Christian Wilkins, his number 5 free agent, a D tackle? The idea would be he combines with Christian Barmore on your line and Gerard Mayo can play the matchup game. The number 30 free agent, Jonah Williams, an offensive tackle, which you two love, bring him in. But you would lose Duggar, Onwenu, Trent Brown, Josh Uche. Bring in an O-lineman, bring in a big fat defensive tackle in the top 50, lose 4 guys in the top 50. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down for you, Mego?
Is that all they're doing in this scenario?
In the top 50, that's all they're doing, yes.
No, that's a thumbs down. I need you to do more. You need to do more. You've got so much cash to burn. To me, that's not burning cash. I would be upset to see Onwenu go. Let's start there. I think that you should be able to make something work with Kyle Duggar. I don't know why Kyle Duggar is going to be... everybody in New England thinks Kyle Duggar is the best thing that's happened in New England in the last 3 years. And it might be possible, but a lot of bad things have happened here with your roster.
It just means they've drafted terribly.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm not sure that he's going to be this big ticket item outside of New England. On top of that, yes, I'm happy that you would get a highly regarded tackle. But why do you have to let these other guys go? And why can't you add more? You can afford to go get a highly regarded tackle and go and get a good receiver.
Yeah, here's my takeaway from it. It's the number 5 free agent. Great. That's probably a big ticket free agent and a big contract. And that is burning cash. That's not how I want to burn it. If you're putting in big time investments, I want a wide receiver. The other takeaway from this exercise, not a lot of receivers moved. Mike Evans, I think his fit was in Carolina. He'd follow Dave Canales. Like I know Mego would. He'd follow Dave Canales from Tampa Bay to Carolina.
Mego follows him on all 4s.
But I think Pittman and Ridley and T. Higgins, I think they all stayed in their locations. So it was not a great exercise.
Honestly,
in my estimation.
I don't really get that joke.
Big time thumbs down. What's more significant for the Patriots, or what will tell you more? Let me rephrase. Free agency or the draft. You can vote 617-779-7937. You can weigh in on Twitter at Jones and Mego, our big question of the day. Real quick, Matthew Slater out, retired from the Patriots. Your thoughts are, Ken?
The thought is that it's not that we need more closure on this, but further evidence that the era is over and the tenure of the longest tenured Patriot is now, I don't even know who it is. Who's the longest tenured Patriot now? I can't even think of it.
Andrews, maybe?
Maybe David Andrews, who's maybe here another year or two. I mean, this is just further turnover. It's something we all knew, I think, was going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of the Hall of Fame talk, and he's going to get a lot of tributes, and it's going to be very different from Bill Belichick's exit, I'll say that.
Okay. Mego, your thoughts?
Expected. He basically told us this the first time that he sat down with us during football season. He hinted strongly at it. I would have been much more surprised if he came out and said, guys, I'm suiting up for another year. I'd be like, whoa, he must really love Jerome Mayo. He's going to go out there and play for him.
I was surprised it hadn't already happened. Like, I kind of forgot he hadn't already retired. Like, I was so... And Mego's right. The first time we sat down with him last year, and multiple times throughout the course of the year, we're like, hey, Matthew, you going to call it quits? Like, we would try to sneak in little questions like that. And it was always very clear he was done. He never answered it directly, but it was always very clear he was done. And I enjoyed our interviews with Matthew Slater, just so I'm being candid. Great in the community, great leader on this team, all those things. It's another veteran they're going to miss, to Arcan's point. The Bill guys are out. McCourty retired 2 years ago. Slater's out now. Maybe Lawrence Guy was one until the end. Adrian Phillips was definitely one. So who are your leaders, and is Mayo shoving out some of your leaders? We can get into that. But the Hall of Fame stuff to me is interesting because I don't want to dance on a guy's grave. Matthew Slater should not be a Hall of Famer. And as great as he was as a special teamer, I don't think Steve Tasker should be a Hall of Famer. I am way more for putting in someone like Vinatieri, who actually had a tangible impact with special teams on your championships, over Slater, who I'm not really sure what the impact was. I mean, he was good in the locker room. He was a good leader. He could break it down. How much were the actual contributions, or would the contributions be missed if Matthew Slater wasn't there? In other words, do you not have 6 Super Bowls without Matthew Slater? So you can weigh in on that if you'd like. Should he be a Hall of Famer? 617-779-7937. How do you feel about Slater out the door? Some of these leaders and voices in the locker room out the door. Does it change your outlook whatsoever for this Patriots team? Along with our big question of the day, what's going to tell us more, free agency or the draft? Both are right around the corner.